Midwife, Christmas Day at 7:40 on BBC One.
Hope we find you well this Wednesday night on BBC One. Mary Berry gets a welcome to Goodwood House for Country House Secrets in an hour, followed by Interview Time, The Apprentice at 9. First, where's my lightsaber?
Welcome to The One Show with Matt Baker.
And Alex Jones. So you may have seen, it's been all over the news. It was the eagerly awaited premiere for Star Wars The Last Jedi last night at London's Royal Albert Hall.
Posh.
Princess William and Harry were there, look, BB-8 rolling around on the carpet, as well as all of the stars of the film.
Well, tonight we are turning to the dark side and have invited two of Star Wars' most feared members of the First Order onto our very own red carpet.
Yes. Brace yourselves and let's welcome General Hux and Supreme Leader Snoke, played by Donald Gleeson and Andy Serkis. Are you well?
Andy, how are you?
Oh my word, you must be reeling from all of this. Oh, Chewie's in as well.
Calm down.
He's absolutely massive, isn't he?
I didn't expect him to be as tall, I'll be honest.
I think he's taller than our one.
Than the real Really? Okay.
But that is the real one, isn't it?
That's the real one.
Course
Yeah,
it is,
sorry,
course,
I've messed
course.
up there.
Who knows, Donald? But I mean, this is the thing, because there's kind of evil characters. Then are you treated differently on the red carpet?
Oh, we don't get to go on the red carpet. We have our own black carpet, which goes up. Yeah, for the dark side. Yeah.
Oh, hang on. Sorry, gentlemen. Oh, Matt.
What?
We've got another guest tonight.
No, we haven't.
No,
All the
honestly,
guests are here that we
they
need.
literally just told me we've got another guest.
No way.
Really?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Who could that be?
I don't know.
Who could that? Oh no! This is bad news.
possibly
This
be.
is bad news.
It's not him, is it?
It is. It's him. Is it?
Hey.
Oh, it's him.
Thank goodness for that.
It's not from the northeast. I am your mother.
Oh, thanks. That's so harsh. What an introduction.
Sorry, Sarah.
We are so pleased it is you, though, Sarah.
thanks.
We are really pleased.
We've rolled out the red carpet. We're talking about premieres. Are you a fan of a premiere?
No, I like to go on like a Wednesday afternoon when there's nobody else there and I can sit in my jeans with my belly hanging out. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
So have you got tickets for the new Star Wars, then?
No, I haven't bought them yet, but we've planned to go on Boxing Day.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure these two can sort you out.
It'll be sold out. I'm sorry. Yeah. All tickets are gone, by the way.
Well,
Said
Donald,
that
if
ahead
you
of time.
can pull any strings, you can.
We've got two blokes who might be-
Disney are not happy. No, yeah. All tickets are not sold out. You can get tickets.
We'll get Chewie on the case. We'll get
Yeah,
Chewie
yeah.
on the case.
How tall is he?
I know. We were just saying exactly that.
Now, we have got a bit of a homemade theme going on tonight because many of the Star Wars characters in tonight's audience made these costumes, amazingly, themselves. They're homemade.
As
some of them.
Donald kind of pointed out. But anyway, yeah, we even have a man here who has built his own Imperial Walker in his back garden.
Wow.
Look at this, and a TIE silencer as well. So we'll talk about that a little bit later.
I mean, I was in a mood about our shed. That would be another level, wouldn't it? Also later, we'll be meeting the sweet makers, recreating sweets of Christmas past, revealing recipes you can make at home this Christmas.
Yes, so if you have made or are in the process of making anything homemade, I don't know, maybe Christmas decorations, maybe you've made a massive Imperial Walker in the back of your garden as well.
Potentially.
Costumes, food, whatever it is, even your own presents, let us know.
Yes, show them off. Get in touch in the usual ways, and we'll show some pictures later.
Yeah, so we have seen proof today, haven't we, that medical science fiction has become fact with the story of baby Vanellope, who has survived after being born with her heart outside of her body, all thanks to the incredible work of the staff of the Glenfield Hospital in Leicester. There's a picture of one happy family, isn't it?
Definitely. Well, it shows that early treatment or diagnosis can save lives. And Joe has met parents pushing for a postnatal test to help save even more.
10-week-old baby Ethan is living in isolation at the Great North Children's Hospital in Newcastle. His parents, Abby and Andrew, are making no ordinary visit to see him.
We have to do this at least 40 times a day.
It's quite overwhelming because there's a lot to remember.
Ethan has a rare condition called severe combined immunodeficiency, known as SCID, which means for him the world outside is deadly.
Ethan basically has no immune system. If he does pick up any infection or germs, then, you know, we're in trouble. Entering the airlock. This is where we've been living for the past 5 weeks.
In order to hold their son, Abby and Andrew need to go through this strict hygiene routine every day. And for us to be with them, we've had to sterilise our camera equipment too.
It's our first child and we can't sort of give him the normal sort of affection that any parent would want to give to a child.
I haven't been able to kiss my son now. He's 10 weeks old.
Kissing him could basically kill him. It's heartbreaking.
Skid first hit the headlines in the 1970s when American David Vetter was confined to living in a plastic bubble for 12 years. He became known around the world as the Bubble Boy. Advances in medicine mean that the bubble is now a clean air room.
The family have only seen him through the window. Yeah. It's really difficult because they want to give the support and they don't really know how they can.
Because of Abby's family history with the condition, Ethan was fortunate to be diagnosed straight away. Skid is so rare that in England it's only found in around 15 to 25 babies each year. It's not routinely tested for at birth, so for some, the diagnosis comes too late. When Susie and Justin's son James was born, he seemed like a perfectly healthy baby. But after 5 weeks, he caught a cold and became very ill. So Susie took him to her doctors.
She said, "Oh, I don't like the sound of his chest. I think he should go to hospital. He might have a chest infection." He was in for 6 days, but then he perked up a bit, so we were sent home. Then over the next 2 weeks, he just started to deteriorate.
He was eventually diagnosed with SCID and transferred to London's Great Ormond Street Hospital.
But by that point, he was so poorly, he didn't really stand a chance.
James died 5 days before his first birthday. The couple are now campaigning for every baby born in the UK to be screened for SCID.
There is a cheap, simple test that can diagnose this condition. It is done from the very same hill prick sample that's already routinely taken for every child. You know, it's just one more test that costs £2.50. Why would you not do it?
It doesn't make sense to think there's another option there that could have prevented all of this.
Today, Susie and Justin have returned to Great Ormond Street to find out whether their campaigning has paid off. Public Health England is set to announce whether or not they'll recommend trialling a screening programme. Professor Bobby Gasper is the hospital's SCID expert and has spent the last 6 years pushing for all newborns to be tested.
So if you can diagnose SCID early on, then what chance does that baby have?
They can have a procedure to correct their immune system, and that's usually a bone marrow transplant, or now we have gene therapy. And if we do that, then we can save virtually every baby. At the moment, the survival rates, if you diagnose them at birth, are over 90%.
On the other side of the hospital, the difference early detection and treatment can make is clear to see. 9-month-old Henry Vinnan received bone marrow from his 2-year-old brother Oscar. 5 months on, and his mum Maria and dad Stuart have an appointment to see if his immune system is developing.
The baby T cells are really coming through now. From the results we've got at the moment, it really suggests that the transplants worked, so that's really good news.
It's brilliant.
So what does this mean for the future?
How normal will things hopefully be for Henry?
If I can let go of all of the, don't get dirty and keep your hands clean, he'll be able to do all of the things that you and I would have done as children.
Yeah, including talking very loudly. You've got a good voice, haven't you, little man? Yeah.
I'm back with Bobby, and he has news from Public Health England.
We've heard just now that they've actually recommended that the UK should go ahead with a pilot for screening for SCID.
Obviously, we wish it was national screening straight away, but this is a big step forward, isn't it?
I think it's fantastic.
If you saved one family going through what we've had to go through, that would have been worth absolutely everything, wouldn't it?
As for baby Ethan in Newcastle, after receiving life-saving bone marrow from his dad, he's finally able to take a trip outside for an hour a day.
It's a real milestone. It finally feels like, you know, we're actually getting somewhere.
We do see a light now, that we're going to have a healthy baby at the end of it.
Thanks so much to Susie and Justin for sharing this story, and of course we wish baby Ethan and his parents all the best for continued improvement. Professor Bobby Gasper joins us now, along with mum Evie and her son Jonah, who's living proof really that an early detection can be life-saving. Welcome all. So Bobby, when are we likely then to see this pilot being rolled out, do you think?
Well, we've been campaigning to have this implemented in the UK for 6 years now. And thankfully, the committee has made a decision that there's going to be a pilot study. And so on Monday next week, we're going to have the first meeting to decide where we should screen, how many babies we should screen, how long we should screen for, and then hopefully we'll start screening next year.
That's such good news, isn't it?
It is. It's fantastic news.
And you feel very strongly about the figures, really, don't you? I mean, we heard there £2.50 a baby, and there's, what, 700,000 babies born
That's right.
every year.
So there are a few... It will cost a few £1 million per year to screen all babies in the UK. Now, that's a drop in the ocean compared to the...
Well, it's lives as well, isn't it?
Exactly, exactly. But, of course, we can't just spend money without it being value for money. Now, there's been a lot of research to look at the health economics of this. Is it cost-effective to screen rather than not to screen? And so that's been done and actually shows that it's very, very likely to save money if we start screening for babies. And that's because when these babies are not screened, they get very ill, they're in and out of hospital, they're often on intensive care, extremely unwell. So it's very costly to look after them like that. But if we can screen them and diagnose them at birth, we can protect them and give them a much easier transplant and course, and we have much better outcomes. So actually, it will not only save lives, but it should save money as well.
So it's good news all
It's
round
fantastic
there.
news.
Exactly.
And Bobby, your connection with Evie and Jonah started 17 years ago when you treated Jonah for the same condition.
That's right.
So Evie, how did you know that Jonah had it?
So we had a family history,
Right.
which meant then I was screened in pregnancy and found out that I was a carrier. Once I then found out I had carrying a boy, we had Jonah and we had his stem cells collected at birth.
Right.
They were sent off and tested, and then we were admitted to Great Ormond Street on day 2, and that's when we met Bobby and the rest of the team.
So Jonah was never ill?
No, never.
And then, you know, now, Jonah, is there any difference between you and your mates in terms of what you can do?
No, not at all. I'm living a normal and active life. Set aside an hour a week to do my infusions, but I'm playing hockey and hanging out with my mates all the time.
And feel absolutely fine?
Yeah.
So early detection really is key then. I mean, John is a...
Living proof.
Yeah, living proof.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And Evie, of course, you know, mums want to be as protective as possible for their children, but what was it... I mean, yeah, what's it been like for you hearing that Jonah obviously leads an incredibly active life and going out there? You know, what would be your advice to mums?
Yeah, I think naturally you're protective, but I think once you see that they are going to grow and develop normally, gradually you kind of grow with them and you have to let them get on and live an independent life.
Flourish.
And there might be some mums-to-be, Bobby, watching who are worried and want their baby to be tested. So how would they go about it then, and what would your advice be?
Well, this is a very, very rare condition. So we think there'll be about 20 babies per year born in the UK with this condition. So it is very rare. So I think my advice would be, if there's a family history of this, if there is a problem with the immune system, then that's something that mothers could go to and talk to their doctors about, and that might be... they may want to get tested, especially if there's a severe problem. But I think for most other mothers, because it is so rare, you shouldn't worry.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll be able to do the pilot programme and have a national programme.
Great.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for coming along and sharing your stories with us tonight. I know, Evie, it's a nice night to bring your sons along because, Johnny, your brothers are in they're big Star Wars fans. Look at them amongst the stormtroopers there. Magic stuff, having a great time. We'll get the cameras out in a minute, we'll have some photos. Now, one of the good things, of course, about Star Wars is that it spans generations, no matter if you are 6 or you are 60 or 2 fully grown one-show family members. There is always that hope that maybe, just maybe, you get to be your Star Wars hero.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, a monumental event took place.
40 years on, people still celebrate that space phenomenon.
Among them, 2 middle-aged fanboys.
Because those first films came out when we were kids. And Star Wars was I mean, we used to watch the VHS until it disappeared. It snapped.
I know.
Did you get Skywalker as a kid?
I was nothing but Skywalker as a kid. As soon as we played Star Wars, everyone said, "You're Skywalker." I had the hair and everything, you know, cute, blonde, you know, small but strong. You'd make a great Darth Vader, obviously. You know.
Oh, thanks, Vader.
Yeah.
Rather than Solo.
Totes, yeah. You're no Solo.
I just wanted to be those guys when I was a kid.
I still do.
Yeah, I know, so do I. I want to be those guys now.
Well, we've been given the chance to play Star Wars just like when we were kids in a one-show challenge.
Can we capture what we love about Star Wars
in just a single shot?
We are so behind schedule, it's untrue.
Can we pull off our very own 60-second Star Wars?
Roger Christian won the Oscar for production design on Star Wars. 40 years ago, he was one of the most important members of director George Lucas's creative team.
Now he's a director, and I got to speak to him in Belgium.
Oh, and he happened to make one of the most iconic props in movie history.
So where did you get the idea for the lightsaber?
Basically, we had so little money, I couldn't afford to make any weapons, and also to give the used look that I wanted and George wanted. So I decided to only use found objects. Went to a shop called Brunnings in London, and I asked the owner there. He said, well, go in the boxes under this shelf there, and there were some boxes that were covered in dust. I don't think they'd been looked at for 15 years. And when I opened it with the tissue paper, there were these Graflex handles, and I took it out, and I'd found the Holy Grail.
What he'd found was the handle for a stills camera flash gun. With some super glue and bits from a pocket calculator, he had it.
I called George over and said, I think I've got a lightsaber. And George came to my office and smiled, and that's the greatest confirmation that he's more than happy.
Not as clumsy or...
And here is that very same prop.
An elegant weapon for a more civilized age.
None of us ever imagined that it would connect like it has.
In the Star Wars saga fight scenes, lightsabers symbolize the clash between good and evil.
Here was King Arthur for a cinema age. I realized when I read it, this was actually a perfect myth he'd created.
Whether it's the props or the mythology, 40 years on, some childhood fans' enthusiasm for the franchise is undimmed. Most of us may have thrown away our toy collections, but Jason Smith's keeps on growing.
Well, I think at the time it was one of the breakout sci-fi movies of the time, but I think without the merchandising that it had, it wouldn't have had the big cultural impact that it did.
And out of all of the movies, what is the one iconic scene?
Well, I think it has to be, just because of what a shock it was for everywhere. It was the scene where Darth Vader reveals to Luke, "I am your father." That was such a shock. Because there was no social media or spoilers, and the media at the time was very kind of clamped down, it was a surprise and shock for most people who went and saw that film.
With the team back in the studio, still working hard, preparing for our 60-second Star Wars.
The hard bit is transitioning through 6 shots, 3 different sets, 3 different lighting scenarios. Yeah, it's a challenge.
We need to get into costume.
OMG,
look at that little Darth Vader! I love all these. I had so many of these figures when I was a kid. Oh, there's, look, Han Solo, look at that.
Never mind Han Solo, buddy.
Now, we just need a passing freighter.
The height of glamour, stuck in a bus stop. Well, you can see the return of our Jedis later, and like Roger Christian, who designed the lightsaber, you can see the British talent who made the original Star Wars next Thursday in The Galaxy Britain Built. It's on BBC4, 10 o'clock. You'll be into that, won't you?
Well, it's fascinating. Yeah. My son certainly will be. Anyway, let's welcome tonight's guests again, shall we? Comedian Sarah Millican and 2 of the stars of Star Wars, Donald Gleeson and Andy Serkis. Chewie's beside himself, he really is. So, the 9th Star Wars film, the 8th in the episode, arguably, you know, the most popular movie franchise in cinema history. It's out kind of midnight tonight. It's called The Last Jedi. So, yeah, we met your characters in The Force Awakens 2 years ago. So just explain for people who maybe have been in another galaxy or not seen it yet, just who the characters are, General Hux and Supreme Leader Snoke. So, Donald, let's start with you.
I play a fella who works for Supreme Leader Snoke, who is not a very nice person, and is intent on trampling down the Resistance and seeing some order in the galaxy.
There you go. You get that, Al?
Yeah, I think, sorry, I'm going to have to do this. I've got a hot water bottle and it's burning in my back, sorry.
Oh, right.
There you are.
I thought you were undoing your bra.
No.
Are we talking Star Wars?
what was going on there. All right.
What we were surprised at was that, you know, you'd imagine that people would jump at the chance to be a part of this franchise because it is so huge. But, Donald, you had reservations, didn't you? You weren't sure initially.
Yeah, I think so. But I'd say everybody is really, you know. It's not like I didn't want to be in it. I wanted to do the job. I was a little bit concerned about the effect it might have on my life. I'd already been in Harry Potter a tiny bit, like a tiny little bit, right at the end of that. And things had changed a little bit just in terms of being out and about and being recognised. So, yeah, I was a little bit... But then I read it, and it was really good, and I just decided not to care anymore. That was good.
And so, Andy, Supreme Leader Snoke.
Supreme Leader Snoke, well, we've seen him in The Force Awakens appear as a hologram. He is the leader of the First Order, a devotee of Darth Vader, and he is, when we meet him in this, in a not very happy state, because General Hux and Kylo Ren, we've seen in the first film, at odds with each other and taking their eye off the ball.
Right.
So the resistance has had some effect. I mean, the First Order is still in control, but he is a leader that feels under threat. So there's fear that's driving his decisions, which makes him very, very dangerous.
It's be a nightmare for you guys talking about, you know, a movie, because you don't want to put any spoilers out
Well, this is the thing.
Yeah.
Everything you're saying, you're like listening to your own sentences.
Well, we'll get it all out of you now. At the end of this hour.
We'll do.
You won't need to go and see it.
Let's have a look at the little trailer, shall
All
we?
right.
Let's see just how strong the Force is with The Last Jedi. Here we go.
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
Come on!
This is not going to go the way you think.
Fulfill your
Chewbacca's loving it. Now, the thing I spotted there was the little porgs.
Yeah,
I mean, they like my little hamster. Oh, they look so sweet.
And they taste really good as well. And
aren't they the top trending character, though, since people have seen this trailer?
well, there's two camps, really. There's the ones who actually think they're adorable, and there are the ones who actually think that they're a really good source of protein. And I'm in the second camp.
Donald?
Disappointing.
Yeah, I'm pro-porg. I like the porgs.
You said to me, look,
I lied to you, Andy. We're on TV now.
I'm menu around porgs.
I was trying to be cool.
Porg chops you can have.
No. Belly pork.
Belly pork.
Belly pork.
You can have ceviche, actually, anyway, whatever.
So, when you look at this kind of lineup here, Sarah, I mean, if you were to pull it, you were to be in Star Wars.
That would never happen, Matt.
Well, what would you be attracted to? I mean, you know.
I'd be working in the cantina, for sure.
Oh.
Yeah, don't you think? I could work behind the bar in the
Dark
cantina.
or light
Oh,
outside.
you should be a bad guy.
Do you think?
Yeah.
With this voice?
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
No one would see that coming.
Is there a role?
It would flip people around.
Is there a role with slippers on Star Wars?
Oh, I'd love. You like my slippers?
I do like.
They're not
your
really slippers.
No, I know, but they're halfway house.
Yeah, I don't think there's many heels in Star Wars.
Well, actually,
I think I'd
Supreme
be
Leader
all right.
Snoke wears slippers underneath his gold
See?
lame robe.
See?
Yeah.
There you go. I'll be all right then. I'll have that one then. Thanks.
And of course, it's incredibly poignant, isn't it, this movie, because of the loss of Carrie Fisher and you know, her performance. We don't want to say too much about it, but yeah, it must have been quite difficult for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, she's an extraordinary person, Carrie, and you know, is utterly unique and you know, a brilliant person who totally lived in the moment and was incredibly funny, and you know, she was just amazing company. So it is, and this film is a terrific tribute to her. Ryan Johnson's, you know, created this amazing arc for her character, and it really honours her.
So she no doubt had a presence at the premiere last night.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, let's now return from a galaxy that's far, far away back to our own blue planet here, because the recent series has made us all more aware of how much our reliance on plastic is causing havoc with our environment. It's prompted the Prime Minister to announce yesterday that the government will be looking at using foreign aid money to help tackle the issue.
So whilst a white Christmas is important to some, Lucy has found some smart ways we can all make it a greener Christmas.
With less than 2 weeks to go to the big day, I know you're in the midst of the annual scramble to buy gifts, to buy decorations, to buy Christmas trees. But my question is, during this season, could we show a little bit more goodwill towards the planet? Especially since the BBC's Blue Planet 2 highlighted the irreparable damage from the millions of tons of plastic waste which ends up in the oceans each year. So here are the do's and the don'ts. Tinsel. Loads and loads of bits of plastic. Do not throw this away. It can't be recycled. Ultimately, we want to go plastic free, but first we need to be zero waste. Do get creative. Make your own wreaths and garlands from the fruits of the forest. Actually, here they've used real fruits. Do choose paper chains and garlands, not plastic. Or go old school and use popcorn instead. Christmas trees. Buy a real one if you can afford it. There are some bargains to be had. This one's great because it comes with the roots, so you can plant it year after year after year. But the real thing is after Christmas. These can be shredded and turned into compost. The National Trust has dug in over 15,000 recycled Christmas trees to create fences across the sand dunes. So if you do have a plastic tree, remember it's made from oil and it's not biodegradable, so you need to use it for years and years and years. This may sound obvious, but don't use plastic shopping bags. Take some cotton or Hessian ones. They're much more fantastic than plastic. Don't use that shiny plasticized wrapping paper because that cannot be recycled through normal paper recycling. Instead, keep it simple. Go for brown paper or newsprint, that's fine as well. Or what about this? This is rag wrap. It's made from recycled plastic, so making use of an abundant waste material, and it can be used again and again. Don't use straws in your Christmas cocktails. These are a single-use item. We utilise them for on average 20 minutes, but with us for centuries. So no straws. Cheers to that. Don't use glitter. It's basically ready-made microplastics, tiny bits, fragments of plastic that wash down drains and into the watercourses, where it causes harm to aquatic wildlife and the food chain. I know what you're thinking. Lucy, you've taken the sparkle out of Christmas. Well, no, I haven't, because this is eco glitter. This biodegrades in 90 days, leaving our Christmases shining and our oceans pollution-free. So there we go, some good advice on how to have a very merry green Christmas.
You can always count on Lucy. And actually, while we were watching that, Sarah, you were just saying that you've had quite a green Christmas for many years.
Oh, yeah. When I first met my husband, he would never wrap presents. So he would just put the thing that he'd bought you in his man bag, and you had to kind of put your hands in the dark and sort of around.
With all the other stuff?
Yeah, like half a banana, a bit of an old
Oh,
sauce.
no.
It was like a bush tucker trail. It was horrendous. And then you get your present and, you know, go and have a tetanus.
But have you trained him now? Is he rapping?
Yeah,
he's rapping.
He'll be all over Lucy's film now. He'll love that one.
See, in your book, then, How to Be Champion.
Yes.
Now, it's a mix of stuff. It's very honest.
Yes.
Very honest.
Oh, okay.
No, in a good way.
In a good way.
And it's a bit of a self-help book as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
In a weird way.
There's a weird thing about writing an autobiography. It's quite arrogant. It's like, you want to know all about me. So I thought, well, to square the circle, I'd put some self-help tips in as well, because I've been through some stuff. We've all been through some stuff.
Yep.
And I quite like to sort of help myself and kind of be practical about problems.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe some of the things that had helped me might help other people.
I think they do.
And when did you decide, you know, when to be serious and when to be funny?
It's sort of dependent on the subject, I suppose. So some subjects you can undercut them with humour, and some things you just can't. You just have to say it and be brutally honest.
Yeah. Because the thing with you, Sarah, you know, you're so honest on stage. I mean, and that's kind of why people love coming to see you, because they know they're going to hear it as it is. So in the book, I suppose you want to give a little bit more because it's a little bit more in depth. So where do you toe the line? I mean, how do you sort of tamper yourself and think, right, that's too far?
I didn't. There's no too far. I just put everything in. I read it to my husband, and if he winced, I didn't put it in. But he didn't.
Oh, that's
wince.
good.
He didn't wince at all.
Oh,
it all went in. It's brutally honest. And
yeah, it is.
Because I'm so honest on stage, exactly like you say. I have to give a little bit more, and I think I did.
Well, you do. It's all in there. No, it's good.
Well,
It's
I
really
think
good.
there's some lovely photos in there as well.
Oh, no.
We're just gonna remove the fireplace and put you in our little plasma, so you can
there
give us
she
a little
is.
bit of information about what you see and what you feel as these pictures come through.
So that was my sister sister's birthday party and I was just shoved in a corner.
Right.
No Patrick Swayze around to not put me in the corner, but and this is I don't know, is this a wardrobe malfunction?
That's a side boob, isn't it?
This is a side boob. That's what they call it. A side boob on South Shields Beach.
South Shields Beach.
Oh, not happy.
Shouting in a park, still do that now.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is my older sister, and yeah, and this is actually Bovril on my nose, not what it might look like.
We were wondering.
Yeah, I thought I should clear that up.
And now this is the first prestigious competition you ever won.
I came third in a Bonnie Baby contest. I think possibly because of the slacks and because I wouldn't smile at all. That's my dad saying
I mean,
smile
your
at the
dad
camera.
looks like Paul McCartney slightly.
Oh, just a little bit, I suppose. I just refused to smile. I didn't want to be judged on my appearance, I think. Tiny feminist.
We've got a chance here. Actually, if you recognise yourselves in these photos, maybe number 1 and number 2 could get in contact before the end of the show.
Oh, God.
Who knows?
That's terrifying.
There you go.
That would
There
be
you go.
amazing,
I'll that
wouldn't
address
it?
if you don't mind.
And then we've got some more moving on through the ear.
right.
Now this haircut, the basin cut.
It's like a purdy. We had Joanna Lumley on.
Do you know what? I think it was called the page boy back in the day.
Yes, I think it was. Yeah,
the
like
page
it's
boy.
a basin cut, essentially.
Yeah, I had the
isn't
same.
it?
Horrible.
Right.
Oh.
Well, you look
Sarah's
like an auntie there.
like an auntie. Sarah's first perm.
Oh. Well, I think glasses became a
Doesn't
very
look like
important part.
Chewbacca's hair. Shut up.
You look like Sarah Jessica Parker.
Oh, but look at the fake books behind. Why weren't you allowed to
I didn't notice. I thought you were in a library.
Vintage books. So many perms over the years.
And the specs have always been a big thing, haven't they?
Oh,
They've
yeah.
always been a really big part of you.
Yeah, they have to be. It's how I see.
Well, of course. When did you first have them, though? Were you...
Oh, when I was 6. I started wearing glasses when I was 6. And that's the chapter that I wrote first of the book, because I decided to write a chapter first to see if I liked
How
doing
it
it, if
went.
it was any good. And that was the chapter I wrote first, so that's got a special place in my heart.
But it wasn't you that was meant to have the glasses initially, was it?
Oh, no. I just went along for the ride. My sister was having her eyes tested and my mum didn't have anywhere to put me, so I came along and she said, it'll be fun. And my sister went away with her 20/20 vision. And I got bullied for years.
But you've owned them now.
Yeah, oh yeah, I don't care now. It's
now talk us through this.
Oh no, oh look. This is Christmas Eve. I worked in WH Smith's and we were allowed to get dressed up for Christmas Eve and I was Goldilocks and my plaits kept getting caught in the till drawer.
Are they real? They can't be.
No, they're not real. They're attached to the hat.
I was going to say, when did you have long hair like that?
Well, we can't, we can't go through a trip down memory lane without having a look at some of your early stand-up. If you don't mind, can we show a little clip from you of the Edinburgh Fringe?
It's really good.
No, is it?
Oh, it's lovely.
good.
No, here we go.
But I did recently move out and get my own place, and I've got a boyfriend at the moment, and sometimes he's there and sometimes he's not. And to be honest, I prefer it when he's not. And if ever I miss him, I just do a big loud fart, and it's like he was there. But the bit of advice I've got is for the ladies in the room. I've discovered as a woman how you know whether or not you're overweight. It's during the throes of passion when your bloke picks you up, whether or not he says 1, 2, 3 first.
So old. Still funny though.
Oh, God.
But you do talk honestly about the fact that you had a big split up and then you
Yeah,
married again and all the rest of it. So you've included some breaking up tips. Now, for people out there feeling sad, facing Christmas alone, and not in a relationship, top 3.
Okay, so a good thing to do is to change the name of your partner, ex-partner, in your phone to something sweary. Doesn't have to be sweary. Mine was sweary. My friend used DNR, do not resuscitate. Because then you have that little reaction and then, it makes it more fun. I changed my I love you person. So, you say I love you. I pointed that to a friend. So every time I felt the need to sort of say that I loved somebody, I would say it to my friend. She said, in fact, that was quite nice. And also I bought all new knickers. Went out, but what I did was a bad idea. I just binned all my knickers. I should have waited till I had time to pop to Marx's. Yeah, and I just had to go shopping commando.
See what on wash and wear.
Yeah, top up the drawer. Yeah.
Okay.
If you want more of Sarah's top tips, everything's in there. Sarah's autobiography. Quite literally. How to Be Champion. It's out now.
Now, we know that you've got a bit of a sweet tooth, Sarah. Yes. So get your coat because we're going to head outside. We've got a right treat for you. Outside, we've got an historic Christmas market. Well, never I had my coat handled by a stormtrooper before.
Thank you. You're an absolute trooper.
We've got loads of delicious sweets and chocolates. It's wrong way round, stormtrooper. Come on. There you are.
It's all because of a wonderful finger-licking new programme that's on BBC Two. Here we go, have a look.
Our sweet makers have already travelled through 4 centuries of confectionery history, grappling with archaic equipment and long-forgotten ingredients. Now they're heading back to experience life as confectioners in Christmases past.
It tastes like Christmas, like a Christmas cookie.
They'll discover how confectioners created new sweet traditions in 3 formative eras. From grown-up Georgian spectacle...
Oh, now it's Christmas.
Looks beautiful. ...to Victorian children's novelties.
8 for a penny.
And finishing with the festive classics of a 1920s sweet shop.
Have a lovely Christmas.
Well, the sweet makers are back, and this time it's Christmas. Candy cane, sugar mice, you logs, chocolate oranges. I mean, all of that stuff is such a big part of Christmas.
Can't wait. Well, tonight we have a selection of the sweet makers from the programme. Each of them have recreated treats of Christmas past and Christmas present, and we'll reveal the recipes so that everybody can have a little go at creating some of this stuff at home.
I mean, Sarah's dribbling.
Stop
talking.
Yeah, we're
Very
going to start
excited.
with Andy. Andy, what's in the pan? What's in the pan?
Sugar mice.
Sugar mice?
Mice, yes. I'm pouring them into this starch mould so they'll set.
Right.
Oh, I thought that was icing sugar.
I made these earlier, if you like.
Oh, look. Oh, yeah, let's have a little one of them.
Have a little try.
So you're talking about Victorian treats.
This is a Victorian treats, yeah. As sugar, the price of sugar dropped by about 50%. It became more widely available to the general public.
Right.
And they figured out how to mass produce things like this.
Yeah.
So it became a lot more available.
Is the tail wool? Can I just check? Is it wool?
It's string, yeah.
String, yeah,
not
just because I
edible.
don't need it.
No, don't need it. Oh,
they're lovely.
Are they quite minty, aren't they?
Put it all in. Really nice.
And this is the thing, Sarah, sugar plum. You know, you hear sugar plum fairy and all that, but it's actually a real thing, isn't it?
A sugar plum is an old-fashioned name, not just for a plum. It's anything that went in the middle of what's called a comfit, which is a sugar-coated sweet that takes about 200 to 300 layers of sugar applied individually to make this thing build up. So if you imagine like a mint imperial type sweet, but with like an almond or a plum or a raisin or something in the middle, they're all sugar plums.
All right.
Right, we're going to put all these recipes on the website, by the way, if you're interested. But Cynthia, is that's a Yule log, surely?
It is a Yule log, yes.
What did you find out then about Georgian cakes, Cynthia?
The Georgians used to make really, really elaborate cakes called the 12th cakes. And then the Victorians took it one step further, and they used to make sweet versions of savoury dishes, like Prince Albert's favourite, the boar's head that everyone's seen. But this was actually made from cake, filled with ice cream, covered in a chocolate glaze, and then decorated with sweets. So it was quite out there.
Sounds delicious.
It was amazing.
Very nice. Fancy a bit of chocolate?
Yeah, all of it.
Because let's move on to Paul here.
What we got?
Who, Paul has been busy, we're looking back over the last 200 years, being a chocolatier 200 years ago. I mean, was it very different to now?
It was quite different, but it was all dark chocolate. There was no milk chocolate. But boxes of chocolates became really popular. Foiled sweets, would you like one?
Yes, yes, please.
Foiled chocolates became popular in fancy boxes. But the biggest thing is our famous Terry's chocolate orange now, which we all have at Christmas, started out as an apple.
No.
It did.
Oh, that's so wrong.
It does an apple, but it didn't taste of apple.
Why was it an apple then?
It was just
Sorry.
That's what we said.
Yeah.
But it became, that's what started Terry's chocolate orange.
You can still get chocolate apples, though, at fairgrounds, can't you?
Can you?
No,
it's like a toffee apple, but it's
Dip.
chocolate. It's got like hundreds and thousands
But
of
the other
But
thing...
then you just stop when you get to the apple and you bin it.
That's true, because apple was never very nice, was it?
I'm going to put down my sugared mouse.
This is the most important thing. They still drank chocolate, have a mug each. But
this is chocolate wine.
This is port wine chocolate.
Oh, don't really have to have this if you don't want
a little taste? It's lethal. It's just port, chocolate, sugar, and some spices. And they drank this at Christmas to warm up and get festive. A little bit tipsy.
It's lovely, but it is
lethal.
Whoa, that is, I tell you what. You know the inside of a chocolate when you bite into them alcoholic ones?
Yeah.
It's like a mouthful of that when you drink it.
I'm driving here.
Oh, yeah.
Hang on, Cynthia apparently has got a Yule log anecdote.
She has.
Cynthia, what's the story with the Yule log that we didn't hear earlier on?
Well, the Yule logs actually started off as part of a pagan tradition. They used to find the biggest log they could find, burn it to ward off evil spirits, and also bring in anything green as a sign of life during the winter months.
Yeah.
And then that, of course, transited to making it and covering it in chocolate to look like a log. Would you like to try?
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah, absolutely. 100%.
We'll slice them up. We'll take some in for Doyle
Do it.
and Andy in a second.
Thanks.
This is
Oh, yeah,
absolutely...
Yeah, please do.
It's got us kicked.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, pretty
Paul, I
strong,
tell you
to
what.
be
Well,
fair.
listen, a big thank you to one and all for coming out, braving the cold tonight. And the Sweet Makers, A Christmas Treat, is on Friday. It's on BBC Two if you're interested at 9 o'clock. And all of the recipes, like we were saying, of all of this lovely, delicious Christmas stuff are on the One Show Facebook page.
That looks nice. Anyway, so
brave another
tonight
little sip
we've
here.
sorted the Christmas treats here, and next Wednesday we're moving on to the entertainment, a big festive dance along.
Yeah, so whatever your age, we want to see your dance moves. Maybe I'd advise a mouthful of this before you start. But anyway, we're going to be dancing to this track here. It's Elton John's Step Into Christmas. So get someone to film you dancing the whole song if you can. Be as creative as you possibly can be. The video has to be recorded in that landscape way, the way that a television is, so not portrait landscape.
No. Send them by email and we'll put them all together for a festive dance along next Wednesday.
Sarah's good. It's a good you
So
look.
don't talk to me, I'm still shoveling it in, love.
It's her favourite One Show appearance.
So good. I'll come back anytime you like.
OK, well, we'll leave you here if you want. Now to a story which began 100 years ago in the midst of the First World War, but has since been long forgotten.
But not by one journalist, as Baroness Lola Young explains.
In June this year, a mysterious package was left on Swanage Pier in Dorset for a BBC journalist.
I am almost certain that this is the bell from the SS Mendi. I've been looking for this bell for the last 30-odd years, so this really is quite an emotional moment.
The bell comes from a forgotten World War I wreck, the troop ship SS Mendi, which sank off the Isle of Wight in 1917. It was one of the worst maritime disasters the English Channel had ever seen. But in war-weary Britain, the fate of the Mendi quickly faded from memory. Graham. For years, I've been intrigued by why the SS Mendi came to be forgotten. Its wreck was only discovered in 1974 off the Isle of Wight. Maritime archaeologist Graham Scott has researched it.
The Mendi was hit on the starboard side, and it was hit such a heavy blow that the holes flooded very quickly. That was unfortunate because these holes were the dormitories.
Who were these men on board?
Most of the people on board were not soldiers, they were labourers, they were the black South Africans.
20,000 black South Africans served on the front line in support of the British Army, which by 1917 was desperately short of troops. Living under oppressive conditions in the white-governed Union of South Africa, they sensed an opportunity for political emancipation by signing up to help. At the SS Mendi Memorial in Southampton, I'm meeting Tapedi Masanobo, who curates a museum on the Somme dedicated to these men.
The situation was deteriorating for their conditions in South Africa. So the decision is that, OK, we are going to participate in this war with the expectation that after the war, the government will reconsider the rights of the Africans.
What exactly was the role of these young men?
Their primary tasks was to dig trenches, repair roads, repair railway lines, right? And then to assist the fighting units, which was white.
On the pitch-black foggy morning of the 21st of February 1917, the Mendi was struck, not by the enemy, but a British mail ship, SS Darrow. The Mendi listed and sank within minutes. The Board of Trade's 1917 wreck report found the Darrow wholly to blame for the collision. But incredibly, the Darrow failed to help the Mendi in the aftermath. The report also says that no attempt was made to ascertain what damage had been done to her or what assistance might be rendered. We don't know why the Darrow's captain failed to act, but we do know almost 650 men drowned. The Darrow's captain got nothing more than a 12-month licence suspension. But a few British investigators have refused to forget the Mendi. Journalist Steve Humphrey spent 30 years looking for the bell that was missing from the wreck when it was discovered.
It was in the early 1980s when I was working for a local radio station. I just started hearing stories about the bell possibly having been taken from the wreck and then brought to somewhere on the Dorset coast.
Steve kept his ear to the ground in the diving community, and this June it finally paid off when a local phoned him anonymously saying they had the bell and would drop it off for him with a letter on Swanage Pier.
All the way through, I thought it could be a wind-up. I got out the car and there was something which was so obviously a bell-shaped object. Then there was that very, very poignant letter inside. Could you please take charge of this bell? I know of its historical importance to South African heritage. If I handed it in myself, it might not go to the rightful place.
The bell is currently on display at the Sea City Museum in Southampton, while the UK government works to establish its legal owner. And today I'm bringing Tapedi to see it for the first time.
My goodness. I think it is loaded with emotions.
Yes, yes. It must be.
You know, I don't know. I mean, looking at it, you know, I see human beings.
So after 100 years, finally we've got this solid representation of what happened.
Their story, which was never told. This brings it back to life. It sort of says that it's never too late to mend the cracks.
Thanks so much to Baroness Lola Young and journalist Graham Scott. And it doesn't seem that the story will end there, does it?
No, and if you would like to go and see the SS Mendy Bell, then you can. You can still see it at the Sea City, which is in Southampton. Now, we've got a few minutes to talk about some up-and-coming projects. You've got a nice little present each there.
Thanks.
So just feel free to open it
And
up.
hang on, we should say they're all in sustainable wrapping paper because
cool.
Lucy Siegel would be going nuts at the telly otherwise.
Lovely.
Yes. Now, without ruining it too much, you've all got little animals in there, because this is the theme, really. So I think we'll start...
covering your face with the wrapping paper.
Yeah, Donald, let's start with your rabbits.
Sorry, man. Sorry, Sarah.
Yes, sorry, let's start with you and
Yes.
your rabbit.
So we know that you are starring as Mr. McGregor in Peter Rabbit next year, which we're very excited about. Let's just have a look at the film first before we chat about it. Here we are. Role to have, though.
Yeah, really cool. It was really exciting, kind of new sort of thing for me, so it was great fun.
Yeah, I bet, was it quite tricky then, acting, because obviously all those animals weren't there at the time.
What?
What?
I don't want to...
Spoiler alert.
How did you get a pig in a jumper? That was my question.
It takes ages.
Yeah.
So long. Yeah. No, I would also like to point out that there are tickets available for Star Wars. Disney have been in touch. There are lots of tickets available for Star Wars. Making Peter Rabbit was brilliant. Yeah.
We'll leave it there, Tom.
Thanks very much.
Andy, I mean, obviously on that theme of animals and what have you, you've got a bear there. So,
yes, indeed. Yeah. Yes, because so next year we'll see a version of Jungle Book, which is actually going to be called Mowgli, coming out in the fall of next year, and it's which I've directed.
Yes.
I love that.
So a new venture then is directing, and how has it been? How have you found all of that?
Yeah, well, it's great. I mean, we had the most amazing cast. So we've got this wonderful young actor called Rowan Chand who's playing Mowgli, and then we've got Christian Bale playing Bagheera, and this is using performance capture technology. So it's all the technology that I've been sort of associated with over the years to create characters.
Well, if there's anybody that can do it, it's you, because you know the ins and outs.
Yeah. So we got Christian Bale's playing Bagheera, then you've got Kate Blanchett playing Car the snake, and then Benedict Cumberbatch is playing Shere Khan the tiger, and a whole amazing cast of other actors. So it's a sort of PG-13, a little bit darker, more closer to the tone of Rudyard Kipling's book, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And just very quickly, we've got to talk about Breathe as well, which is another film that you've directed, which has had huge critical acclaim.
Yeah, which is it's a beautiful love story starring Andrew Garfield and Claire Foy, based on a true story.
Yeah.
A man and called Robin Cavendish, who was a polio sufferer in the 1950s.
Yeah.
Pioneer, first person to live outside of the hospital system, living on a respirator, and the love of his wife that supported him through 3 decades, and he was only supposed to live for a couple of weeks. So it's a really extraordinary tale, true story. And
well, huge congratulations
thank
on
you.
the success of that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And then Sarah Millican.
Mine's a lot more small
The
scale
elephant
than
in the
these guys.
room.
Yeah, the elephant
That's
in
not
the room.
me, by the way. That's
Quite
just
literally.
rude. I pitched a. I'm not even going to mention mine.
Come on.
I've got a Radio 4 pilot.
Yes.
Which is a panel show where it's all women and one man, so it's kind of the
Nice.
reverse of the usual.
Yeah.
And it's called Elephant in the Room.
And right, okay.
Yeah. So mine's not as fancy.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, yeah. But at least I know what the seasons are called here. So, yeah.
Oh, man. All right.
Now, our one-show Star Wars sequel, starring two grown men realising their dreams and creating their own one-take version of Star Wars. Here it is.
It's 40 years on from the release of Star Wars in 1977.
That film captured our imaginations and defined our childhood.
Now we're going to be kids again, playing two of our favourite characters. Villain Darth Vader.
And the boyish hero, Luke Skywalker.
Keep that shoulder up, buddy. Can we celebrate Star Wars with a parody of the space drama captured in just a single take?
For the past 2 days, our crew has been preparing a studio just outside Bristol.
But we're not going to be able to recreate the spectacular sets of Star Wars on our down-to-earth budget. So we've enlisted the help of artist Joe Hill.
He specialises in what's known as anamorphic art. 2D illustrations that, when viewed from the right angle, give the appearance of being 3D.
They have massive film sets and sprawling areas, and I've only got a little bit of wall and floor in my studio. So what I'm going to do is frame in a shot and then use perspective to create expanse beyond. I'm going to create this big world. There's a sweet spot with all these pictures, a single spot where if you stand and look at the picture, the 3D illusion comes to life.
Action! Move! The fight scenes, the costumes, the sets. Here's how we're hoping to capture what grown-up fans still love about Star Wars.
Because it's one shot, the choreography is complicated. Dan is going to transition from Emperor to Dark Lord as I go from Luke Skywalker to Obi-Wan Kenobi and back again, in the middle of a fight scene.
Guys, so, okay, let's reset. You need to be on Darth.
We are this close to perfection. There are pieces of set to wheel in and out.
Reset, 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 reset.
Before we end with a shot of Joe Hill's artwork. It's warm, isn't it?
I bet it is.
It's like putting your head in an oven.
After 2 days of set building, lighting and rehearsals,
here is our tongue-in-cheek celebration of Star Wars.
great stuff. Great work, Darth Vader. You were splendid.
I was brilliant.
Yeah. All that gear on and everything, you know.
You weren't so bad yourself.
Yeah. Well, I was born to be.
That was fun.
I was born to be Luke.
And we've got some more Star Wars fans in the studio now, but I think it's fair to say that these didn't go to a local fancy dress shop. Did you, Chewie? No.
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 Well, these are
No.
super enthusiasts, to say the least, some of whose creations have actually gone on to appear in actual Star Wars movies. And one which might well be in the brand new Star Wars film.
Are we
but
allowed
don't
to
wanna
say that?
too much anyway. BB-9E. The thing is, loads of toys are out there now, so, you know, that's not too much of a spoiler. Anyway,
Right.
yeah, BB-9E. We've got BB-8 as well here. They're playing around in the... yeah, on the red carpet. Lovely. Over there.
It's really sweet, don't they?
Yeah, and now James Bruton here has built... How many of BB-8s have you built in your...
So that's the third version of BB-8, and BB-9E is essentially the fourth version. So,
Right.
sort of slightly different mechanical builds.
There's unbelievable technology in there, and that kind of ball, just to make that all.
Most of it's software, so yeah, it's adjusting its motor speeds and directions about 50 times a second to try and stay stable, so it's running a really fast loop. But yeah, it's basically a 5-axis robot, so it drives in one axis to drive forward and leans to steer. One of them has a flywheel in so it can spin, and then it's got a head control arm that moves another 3-axis, and all that's controlled by software.
Magic.
So,
magic.
And then, Lee, you're part of the group who run the R2D2 Society. Is that what we call it?
We're the UK R2 Builders Club.
Right, good. But you actually make them for the film, don't you?
That's right.
Yeah, so how did that come about then?
Well, in 2013, there was a convention, and Kathleen Kennedy was there, who runs Lucasfilm now. And she saw the R2 builders who were at that event, and they just jokingly said to her, you know, if you need a builder, we're probably the people you should ask. And 6 months later, a fellow builder, Oliver Steeples, and myself were called to Pinewood Studios. And little did we know it was actually a job interview. And I've been there ever since. That was 4 years ago.
So a hobby became a full-time job?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Wow.
So that's the job.
And the R2LO and R2D2's in...
Yes, that's right. With a different head, but that was in Force Awakens. And that's an R2 I'm building at the moment of my own. The ones are stuck at Pinewood, the other 4 that we built. So.
And Gary, let's talk about the stormtroopers that are behind us, because I mean this is your domain really. So much so that you were even in the was it the Force Awakens that you were in, and all the work you've done.
I'm part of the 501st UK Garrison, and also our friends here from the Rebel Legion. We do this for fun. We're all volunteers. We raise money for charity.
Yeah.
And kind of Lucasfilm and Disney as a treat for that. Invited some of us to go along in the Force Awakens and be stormtroopers.
But the design, I mean, you know, it looks perfect.
Well, these are the original ones. Thanks, Jim. These are the original ones. So these are like exactly what you see in A&H, A New Hope, that came out in '77. And the First Order troopers have developed.
Yeah.
So there's an evolution there, and you can see how they would have come along in 30, 35 years.
It looks a bit restrictive, is it?
Yeah.
You know, if I was going to a fancy dress and I was considering stormtrooper, would it be a good?
In anything,
no,
I'm sure.
Right. No.
But Andy, I think it's out there, isn't it, that Prince William and Prince Harry were stormtroopers as well. So do you know what scene they were in? Do you mean?
Well, I was told the royals were coming down. I thought it was Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip were coming down to be stormtroopers. I had no idea it was.
That would be a story, wouldn't it?
So we don't know if that's the shot that they were in then. If we just go back to that mass, you don't know if they're in there somewhere. Maybe they are. Who knows?
I'm not sure. I really don't know. Do you know?
Haven't a notion.
Nobody knows.
No one else too scared to say anything.
I am. I'm terrified. I'll be honest. I'm terrified.
They've got to be in there somewhere.
And we've got Colin here then. Now, you've been on the show before, associated with the show, because you build these mad things. But probably one of the maddest things is this fella here. But you've built a massive version in your garden.
Yeah, basically measured this, scaled it up, and built a huge 5.5 metre playhouse, basically. So like some steps come down, and then kids could go up inside of it, and it was all full of stuff.
Now that
Kids are you.
Well, this is Star Wars, isn't it? So it
get inside
covers a
it,
number
though.
of genres. So.
Yeah. I mean, you can get inside it, and it's just remarkable.
Yeah, you could all go inside it. It built everything from eBay, and also we did the TIE silencer.
The TIE silencer, yeah.
Which is this one's life size. So this one's absolutely humongous. The real size one of this is like 14 metres across, about 4 metres high and about 7 metres wide.
So what do the neighbours think when they look over the fence and see these big things in your garden?
Yeah, that's not the most they have to deal with. So there are other things.
Well, people have been busy building at home, and thank you for all the things that you've been sending in. There we are. Linda's sent this from Dartford. She's made this decoration from pasta.
Little Alex at age 5 made this a toilet roll nativity.
If you're a fan of snowmen, you're going to like this. Laura and her daughter Chloe made this plastic cup snowman. And finally, Mark from Bristol has made this Christmas cake with half a bottle of brandy. Get in! He wants to try that chocolate stuff that we were trying out there. Anyway, you can hold all them first before we...
Thanks, Chewie.
That's perfect.
Well, that is all for tonight. Sarah's autobiography, How to Be Champion, is out now. And Star Wars The Last Jedi is in cinemas from tomorrow.
Tomorrow, join me and Angela Scanlon when we'll be joined by Noel Gallagher. So, on that note, R2D2, want to roll with it?
He does.
Very good. Hey! See you later, everyone. Bye-bye.
Hello, I'm
Colleen Harris with your 90-second update. The government has just narrowly lost a key vote on Brexit. A rebellion by some Conservative MPs helped to back changes that means any final Brexit deal needs to be voted on by Parliament. Just 3 years old, Leah Pearson becomes the fourth child to die at a fire at a house in Greater Manchester on Monday. 2 people have been charged with murder. Chris Froome is under investigation. An excessive level of an asthma drug was found in his body at a race he won in September. The 4-time Tour de France winner says he had increased his dosage, but within the legal limits. Using drones, they smuggled more than £1 million worth of drugs and phones into prisons. The gang's ringleader, who organised the flights from behind bars, is jailed for more than 7 years. And how about this for a world record? 20 people playing one tune on one piano. 18 Bosnian children and their 2 teachers trained for 3 months to do it.
Hello there. Showers will continue through the night and that could lead to more icy stretches first thing tomorrow morning. Frequent showers as well, although the winds will start to ease down and most of the showers can find themselves out to the west. Further inland and to the east, drier, more sunshine and not quite as cold as it has been, with highest values generally around 4 to 7 degrees. Take care.
The gang are back together again, and for one special community in South Wales, it'll be a Christmas to remember.
Morning! Oh my God! So we've basically come sort of volunteer our services. So we've got a big party happening tomorrow.
You're all invited. I'm so overwhelmed that they've come somewhere like this to help us.
No one does Christmas like you, my friend.
No, that's true.
Mary, Mel and Sue's Big Christmas Thank You. Christmas Eve at 7 on BBC One.
Join Dame Judi Dench as she shares her lifelong passion
So, Judy, shall we measure your tree?
and explores a hidden world throughout the seasons
This has never been filmed for television before.
to discover the secret life of trees.
It's mind-blowing.
Judi Dench, My Passion for Trees, next Wednesday at 8 on BBC One.
For small children is a recipe for heartache, headache and indigestion.
Little Women, the new series, starts Boxing Day at 8 on BBC One. It's interview time.
You don't know how much you don't know, because you don't know.